4:36 now as we move back to talking about the topic of Baltimore and the topic of ports. Joining us on the Newsmaker line from Oakland, California, a new guest to the program. He is the California Ports reporter at the American Journal of Transportation, and he's also with the Propeller Club of Northern California. Stas Margarolas is with us. Stas, I hope they got the name right. If I didn't, I apologize. But it's good to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Dan.
What do you make of what happened in Baltimore 1 week ago today, almost 172 hours ago? What do you make of what happened?
Well, I think, as I told you, I think it's a wake-up call about bridges. What happened to the Francis Scott Key Bridge is not an isolated incident. It's one of several incidents that's been happening with increasing frequency. And there was a survey done, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago that found that half the bridge collapses that were recorded around the world occurred in the United States. So regardless of what actually prompted the bridge to collapse, whether more could have been done or not, I think we need to be spending more time on making sure that our bridges are working, are safe, and are operational. And that is a major, major investment that I think that we need to be making. And as we also discussed, one of the problems is that over the last 40 years, we haven't spent money on infrastructure. And infrastructure includes bridges. And so I think it's really important that we start to focus on that area.
Stuart Margaronis joins us, and as you can hear in the background, there's a freight train going by because he is actually at the Port of Oakland today as a reporter for the California Ports Reporter, the American Journal of Transportation. So you are out in the field doing what you need to do as a journalist today.
I am indeed. Our port at Oakland is thriving, but it's also struggling, and we're trying to get more business here. Our hearts go out to everybody in Baltimore, Dan. That is a very tough situation. A lot of people are out of work. It's going to take time before, as you know, as they can get the ship check working, and then there's going to be a backup of exported goods from coal to farm equipment that has to get out, and cars that have to come in. So that is going to be a tough challenge for them, and it's our best hope and wishes that that'll happen quickly.
You know, Baltimore is not a particularly large port in terms of container volume. It's not Long Beach or Los Angeles, but boy, the items that they move at that port, automobiles, trucks, light trucks, farm equipment, coal, sugar, very specialized cargo, but very important.
I agree, and that's why our ports are important for many, many different reasons. The bigger ports down in Savannah and New York, New Jersey, and Norfolk, they're handling the bulk of the cargoes, but we also need the smaller ports for the items that you described. And when we lose them, we start to see the problems that you referenced.
One thing about the Port of Baltimore, it is a very compact port, very, very compact into that area of the Inner Harbor. It's got the former Bethlehem Steel facility right next to it that's turned into a warehouse and a thriving warehouse environment as well. But it's not one of these mega ports that just goes on miles and miles and miles. It is really packed in there.
It is indeed. But I'd like to just mention to you, you just referenced Sparrows Point
yes.
and the shipyard out there. That could be a major resource for us. And one of the problems, Dan, that this wake-up call about what happened with the Francis Scott Key Bridge is that we need to be diversifying our transportation infrastructure. And by that, I mean we need to think about moving more containers up and down the I-95 corridor by ship and by tug barge. And that facility has a huge dry dock, and there have been several efforts to try and get that going again for shipbuilding. I understand that there's wind turbine business that's going on there, but we also really need to be thinking about shipping, coastal shipping, and coastal tug and barge work that could allow us to move more truckloads off the roads and onto the I-95 and I-5 corridors, I-5 on the West Coast, because when we get a situation like what we have right now, where the 695 is going to be out of action for at least 4 or 5 years, we've got to have another way to move things. We will have things like this happen, and I think we're much too invested on the road and not enough on water.
Interesting point. That is an interesting point that you make, that maybe we should spend more money. What about more intermodal as well? You know, Baltimore's got this antiquated Howard Street tunnel that runs through the center part of the city. They have now, they're spending $500 million to update it. They're going to make it so that this thing can handle double-stack railroad containers from CSX. All good. But this tunnel, Stas, as you know, is 130 years old. It goes back to the Grover Cleveland administration. I mean, he's been gone a long time.
Well, so we have there is a bigger issue that we also, you were referencing the problems that we've had accidents on some of our railroads recently. The railroads need to be much more invested in their infrastructure, their tracks, their locomotives, and especially their people. And there's been a move by the railroads to adopt something called precision scheduled railroading.
Yes, sir.
And I think that has really had a negative impact, Dan, on our whole railroad structure. We're going to have another... Hold on a second.
We go to where the news is, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, if that's an Amtrak train, it'll be short.
I got to say one thing, Stas. You can't say you're not authentic. You are where the news is at.
So we need more investment in our railroads. But if the railroads are taking profit before operations, profit before people, profit before the ability of the United States to move its freight in an expeditious manner, just the way you referenced for the Port of Baltimore, we have similar needs out on the West Coast. We need more investment in the railroads, investing in the railroads, and not just making a profit.
Let's get to a call from Big Fat Daddy. He is on the line. Hello, you're on the air with Stas. Go ahead.
Hey, I was thinking the Francis Scott Key Bridge basically is unusable and out of action, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Wouldn't this be a great time to just demo the entire thing and start again with bigger and better? Because my understanding, this truss bridge design it had, if one piece fails, it all fails. So you've got a bad bridge there that if you throw a Band-Aid on it, you're just asking for trouble.
I agree with you, and I think that you'll find that this isn't the only bridge that's in that situation. And that's why I said that we really need to be investing more in our bridges. And I think you may be right that if there's a replacement, it will be a much more modern and much more structurally sound one. But it's going to take time for that bridge to be built. And in the meantime, we've got 30,000 vehicles a day that are on that bridge that have to go someplace else. And that's going to be a real problem for a lot of people in the Baltimore area.
Yeah, they've got a big problem, don't they, in terms of getting around and the Baltimore Beltway. Big Fat Daddy, if you're going to be on the Baltimore Beltway, that's going to be a big mess, isn't it?
It would be, except I haven't gotten past the Mississippi in a number of years.
So, yeah, you work all on the West Coast.
Yeah. No, there's been several bridges that have been damaged, like in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
They got to it, and they got it ahead of schedule. Why can't we do the same thing? Maybe our version of the New Deal program.
Desperate times call for desperate things, don't they, Stas?
I agree, and I think that's a correct analysis of what we need to be doing. We've got. Spending more on this infrastructure, and I know for many years a lot of the opposition has been against federal spending, against government, but this infrastructure pays for itself. And what we are seeing right now with the loss of that bridge is what happens when we don't have it.
The old line, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Coming up to 4:47 here on Road Dog Trucking News. Our guest is Stas Margaronis, and he is the head of the California Ports Reporter at the American Journal of Transportation and the Propeller Club of Northern California. When we come back, I want to talk with Stas about some of the things that his organization and others have been doing with regards to a slim possibility of a baseball stadium in Oakland for the Oakland A's, the struggling Oakland A's. We'll continue our conversation after these messages. I also should remind you that this Road Dog Trucking News weather update is brought to you by XPO with the news and weather. 4:48 Road Dog Trucking News, right back after these messages.
Back to Road Dog Trucking News with Dan Ronan, sitting in today for Mark Willis.
Glad to have you with us. Stas is with us. He is the head of the California Ports Reporter at the American Journal of Transportation and the Propeller Club of Northern California. Stas, what is the Propeller Club of California?
Well, the Propeller Club is an international organization of clubs around the United States, Europe, and I believe we have some clubs in South America. It was started in New York in 1923, and it is devoted to maritime shipping and the maritime industry. And so each of our clubs around the United States, we support the maritime industry in different ways. And that includes supporting our ports, and our port community. So that's what we do.
So let's change and veer off 5 degrees on this. A couple of years ago, the Oakland A's came up with an idea to build a baseball stadium inside the port, not on the outside of the port or outside of the perimeter, but physically inside the port, and put a mixed-use community development in there with condominiums and real estate and all sorts of stuff. A lot of people jumped on this and said it was a bad idea. Now, it doesn't appear to be going anywhere, but in your reporting on this, why was it such a bad idea?
The reason, Dan, is that it would have made operating the Port of Oakland almost impossible. We have a lot of trucking coming in and out of the port. That trucking would have been severely impacted by baseball games and condominiums and commercial real estate in the port area. our rail lines would have been severely impacted because there would have been times where the rail that's serving the port could not operate because of baseball games. There was an attempt, I believe, to really flip the Port of Oakland into a residential area by the waterfront and stop allowing it to operate as a maritime industry operation. And every maritime stakeholder, including our Propeller Club of Northern California, we work with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, the trucking industry, UP and BNSF railroads. We all work together because we saw this as a real threat to our ability to operate a port. We don't have enough industrial land as it is. We need more, not less. And if you can think about it, you're living in a condominium and you have container ships being unloaded a couple of hundred yards down the road from you. Your first reaction is going to be to call the mayor and tell him to stop unloading those ships when it's inconvenient.
Is this dead for right now, or is this on life support, or what's this? I know there's been a lot of talk that they're going to move to Vegas, but they don't have a lease yet. They don't have a stadium. They don't have anything.
Well, that's the $64,000 question. We're not hearing much that indicates that the A's are going to come back to Oakland. I feel like many people, even the people who we all support the A's. A lot of our people are A's fans. But there was a place that stadium could have been rebuilt, which is on the original site.
Yeah, where the Coliseum is at, right next to the basketball arena where the Warriors used to play.
Right. So what was wrong with that? And I think, Dan, what was wrong is that this was never about baseball. It was about real estate and making money off of real estate. But the answer to your question is we don't have any information right now that indicates that the A's are going to be back in Oakland.
Yeah, I never could understand why they did not decide to make a sports complex in Oakland like they have in Philadelphia. They just keep using that same piece of property, and they've had 6 or 7 stadiums on that piece of property in South Philadelphia where the Lincoln Financial and Citizens Park is at now. It just keeps they tear a stadium down, they put a new one up. Why not do that?
Well, we all asked ourselves the same question, and I think at the end of the day is that the management of the A's was really not just interested in baseball. They were interested in going further afield in real estate and condominium development and creating a shopping center, and that had less and less to do with baseball.
As we wrap up, got about 2 minutes left. How much time are you going to be spending, and how much do you think you'll be spending in the next weeks and months covering the Baltimore story?
Well, it's a big issue for the American Journal of Transportation. We're very invested on the East Coast. There are a number of issues that we're concerned with, which is what's going to happen with all of the exports that are now beginning to start lining up and not going anywhere. And they're backing up, and that is going to cause a problem as the railroads and other shippers have to find space for stuff that should be going out that isn't. The broader issue for me is what is going to happen with the 695 corridor, and how is that going to be replaced, and what are the issues related to trucking specifically and hazmat trucking even more specifically that now have to be shifted away for the foreseeable future. And the final thing is, when is this bridge going to be rebuilt? And when will we be back to where we were a week ago?
Indeed. Hey, people, if they would like to read your great great content and the great content that you and the other journalists do at the American Journal of Transportation. What's the website? Where can we go to find out more about this really great reporting?
www.ajot.com, www.ajot.com.
It is great to talk with you, great to make the introduction, and we will do this again, Stas, because you really do know this particular topic down cold, and you are passionate about the need to rebuild America's infrastructure and get it done right.
Thank you very much, Dan, and I really appreciate this, and I also appreciate the fact that you are an avenue for us to be able to get this message out that we do need to rebuild the United States.
Well, we'll do it again soon. Stas Margaronis, he is the president of the Propeller Club, and he is also the reporter for the American Journal of Transportation. 4:59 here on Road Dog Trucking News for a Tuesday afternoon. That's going to wrap it up. Mark Willis is back in the chair tomorrow, and I will see you here on the radio soon.